video is in continuation with the next part of the unit first. So we'll next part of the unit first of the TCCN. So we'll continue over here. Like in the last section, we have discussed about the network hardware, software, topologies, protocols, standards, and OSI model. Right. So today we'll discuss about the next important model, that is TCP and TCP/IP model over here. So TCP/IP model has basically the four layers. First is the application layer. All the functions of the layers are over here the same that were of the OSI model, right? So we'll discuss them over here also one by one. The application layer protocol, the protocol which works over here are the HTTP and the FTP. Like it is the first layer. I've already discussed in the OSI. Transport layer, data is transmitted in the form of datagrams using the transmission control protocol TCP. TCP is responsible for the breaking of the data at the client side and reassembling it on the server side. Next is the network layer. Network layer connection is established using the internet protocol IP. At the network layer, every machine connected to the internet is assigned an address called IP address by the protocol to easily identify sources and destination machines. Next is data link layer. Actual data transmission and bits occur at the data link layer using the destination address provided by the network layer. Right. So TCP/IP is widely used in many communication networks other than the internet. The transmission control protocol is one of the main protocols of the internet protocol suite. It originated in the initial network implementation in which it implemented the internet protocol IP. TCP provides the reliable, ordered, and error-check deliverable stream of octets between applications running on hosts communicating by an IP network. TCP is connection oriented, and connection between the client and server is established passive open before data can be sent. Three-way handshake, active open, transmission, and error detection adds to the reliability. So these were the main functions of the TCP, and we have discussed about the TCP layers, the functioning of each and every layer, which we have discussed in detail in the OSI model is the same over here also, right? So this is the diagram of the TCP/IP application, transport, networking, and the data. These are the protocols which work on these applications: TCP, UDP, transport, IP, ICMP, Ethernet on the data link layer. So this was all about the TCP/IP model. Next we'll discuss about the digital and analog signal. Analog signal is a kind of continuous waveform that changes over the time. We have quite aware about the analog and digital signal, like we have studied it in also over school time and also in the first year, right? So we'll discuss about them over here also. An analog signal is described by using the amplitude, period of phase, and the frequency. So what are these? We will discuss over here. Amplitude marks the highest height of the signal. Frequency marks the rate at which the signal is the change. Phase marks the position of the wave with respect to the time 0. An analog signal is not immune to noise, and hence it faces distortion and decrease the quality of the transmission. So a lot of problems occur in the due to the noise in the analog signal. Digital signal is non-continuous. Like we'll represent these analog signal with the help of the sine waves. Digital signal is non-continuous discrete time signal. Digital signal are represented by the help of the square wave. See, so they are the non-continuous. Digital signal carries information or data in the binary form. That is, digital signals represent information into the form of the bits. Digital signal is described with bit rate and bit intervals. Bit interval describes the time required for sending a single bit. On the other hand, bit rate describes the frequency of the bit interval. The digital signal is consist of the zeros and the ones. So here are the wave formation of the analog and the digital. These are the sine wave form by which we represent the analog signal, and this is the digital signal in the form of the zeros and the ones. Next is periodic analog signal. Periodic analog signal can be signal which repeats itself after the fixed interval of time are called the periodic signals. Right? So we are going to discuss over here periodic analog signal. Periodic analog signal can be classified as the simple or composite. A simple periodic analog signal, a sine wave, cannot be decomposed into the simpler signal. A composite periodic analog signal is composed of multiple sine waves. The sine wave is the most fundamental for a periodic analog signal. When we visualize it as a simple oscillating curve, it changes over the course of cycle. Over the course of a cycle is a smooth and consistent, a continuous rolling flow. The following figure shows a sine wave. Each cycle consists of a single arc above the time axis followed by the single arc. So you can see it clearly from the diagram, right? A sine wave can be represented by the three parameters: the peak amplitude, the frequency, and the phase. Let's discuss one by one. Peak amplitude of a signal is the absolute value of its highest intensity proportional to the energy it carries. For electric signal, peak amplitude is normally measured in the volts. Next is period and frequency. Period refers to the amount of the time in seconds or signal need to complete one cycle. Frequency refers to the number of period in 1 second. Right? Period is the inverse of the frequency and frequency is the inverse of the period, as the following formula: small f is equals to 1 by t and t is equals to 1 by. So these are the inverse of each other. Next is the phase. The term phase describes the position of the waveform related to the time 0. Wavelength is the distance a simple signal can travel in one period. Next, our topic is the signal transmission. Transmission mode refers to the mechanism of transferring data between the two devices connecting over the network. It is also called communication mode. These modes direct the direction of flow of information. There are three types of transmission mode. They are simplex mode, half duplex mode, full duplex mode. So basically we have three types of signal transmission mode. We'll discuss them one by one. Simplex mode. In this type of transmission mode, data can be sent only in one direction, that is communication in the unidirectional. We cannot send a message back to the sender. Unidirectional communication is done in simplex system where we just need to send a common signal and do not expect any response to the back. So on the message can only be sent in the one direction. Example of simplex mode are loudspeaker, television broadcasting, television and remote, keyboard and monitor, etc. Half duplex mode. Half duplex data transmission means that data can be transmitted in both the direction on a single carrier but not at the same time, right? So at a time only in the one direction we can send our data. Example of half duplex is like walkie-talkie, in which messages sent over is sent one at a time but the messages are not sent in both the direction at a time. So you must be aware of the walkie-talkie, which is the example of the half duplex mode. Next is full duplex mode. In full duplex mode, system can send data in both the direction as it is bidirectional at the same time. In other words, data can be sent in both the directions simultaneously. Simple example of full duplex is the telephone network, in which there is a communication between the two persons via telephone line, using which both can talk and listen at the same time. So these were the modes of the transmission. Next is the limitation of the data rate. Data rate refers to the speed of the data transfer to the channel. So how the amount of data which is transferred through the channel is referred as the data rate. One of the main objective of the communication is to increase the data rate. There are the three factors that determine the data rate of a channel: bandwidth of the channel, number of labels of signal that are used, and the noise present in the channel. So these are the three factors to determine the data rate. Data rate can be calculated using the two theoretical formulas. First is the Nyquist bitrate for the noiseless channel, and the Shannon's capacity for the noisy channel. So in the Nyquist method, we are assuming that our channel is noiseless. No noise is present in this. Nyquist bitrate was developed by the Henry Nyquist, who proved that the transmission capacity of even a perfect channel with no noise has the maximum limit. The theoretical formula for the maximum bitrate is equal to 2 into bandwidth into log 2 V. So this was the formula for calculating the maximum bitrate by the help of the Nyquist method. Here maximum bitrate is calculated in BPS. Bandwidth is the bandwidth of the channel. V is the number of discrete level in the signals. Next is Shannon's capacity. Plot Shannon's standard Nyquist work for the actual channel that are subjected to the noise, right? So here we are talking about like our channel is not free from the noise. Noise can be of various types like thermal noise, impulse noise, crosstalk. The amount of noise is calculated as the ratio of the signal power to noise power, which is known as SNR. Signal to noise ratio SNR is equals to average signal power upon average noise power. Since SNR is the ratio of two powers that varies over a very large range, it is often expressed in decibels called SNR dB, and calculated SNR dB is equals to 10 log 10 SNR. Shannon's capacity gives the theoretical maximum data rate or capacity of noisy channel. It is expressed as capacity is equals to bandwidth into log 2 1 plus SNR. Here capacity is the maximum rate of the channel in BPS. Bandwidth is the bandwidth of the channel. SNR is the signal to noise ratio. So these were the two methods for calculating the data rate. Next topic is the digital data transmission. How data is being transmitted refers to the process of transmitting data between two or more digital devices. Data is transferred in the form of bits between two or more digital devices, right? There are two methods used to transmit data between the digital device: serial transmission and the parallel transmission. When data is sent or received using serial transmission, the data bits are organized in a specific order, since they can only be sent one after the other. The serial transmission has two classifications. First is the synchronous and second is the asynchronous. First we will discuss about the asynchronous serial transmission. The time between the sending and the receiving data bits is not constant, so gaps used to provide time between transmission. So the transmission between the time of transmission between the two bits is not the same. Synchronous serial transmission data bits are transmitted as a continuous stream in time with master clock. When data is sent using parallel transmission, multiple data bits are transmitted over multiple signals at the same time. This means the data can be sent much faster than using the serial transmission method. So here you can see from the diagram, like this is the parallel transmission where simultaneous transmission of 8 bits is taken place, like they are transmitted at a time, while in case of the serial they are transmitted one by one. So it is clearly visible from the diagram. Next, multiplexing and demultiplexing. Mixing or demultiplexing can be defined as it is a way of transmitting various signals over the media or a single line. Right. The three types of multiplexing techniques include the following: frequency division multiplexing (FDM), wavelength division multiplexing (WDM), and time division multiplexing (TDM). Frequency division multiplexing: in frequency, signals are produced by transmitting various devices modulated carrier frequency, and then these are united into a single solo signal which can be moved by the connection. Frequency division multiplexing is a technique in which available bandwidth of a signal transmission media is subdivided into the several channels. The best example of the FDM comprises signal transmission, TV, and radio. So these are the example of the FDM. Next is the time division multiplexing TDM. In time division multiplexing technique, the total time available in the channel is distributed among different users. Therefore, each user is allocated with different time interval known as time slot at which data is to be transmitted by the sender. There are the two types of TDM. First is synchronous TDM. In synchronous TDM, signals are sent in the form of frames. Time slots are organized in the form of frames. If device does not have data for a particular time slot, then the empty slot will be the transmitted. Next is synchronous TDM. And synchronous TDM is a technique in which time slots are not fixed as in the case of synchronous TDM. Time slots are allocated to only those devices which have the data to send. Therefore, we can say that asynchronous time division multiplexer transmit only the data from active workstations. Next is wavelength division multiplexing. WDM is same as the FDM except the, that optical signals are transmitted through the optical fiber cable. WDM is used on optical fiber optics to increase the capacity of a single fiber. Last is the demultiplexing. Demultiplexing is a process of reconverting a signal containing multiple analog or digital signal stream back into the original, separate and unrelated. So basically, multiplexing was like many to one conversion, and demultiplexing is one to the many. It is somewhere reverse of the multiplexing. You can see from the help of the diagram, like four signals were converted into the one by the help of the multiplexer and one into the four by the help of the demultiplexer. So this was all about the multiplexing, demultiplexing, TDM, FDM and WDM. Right, so we will continue with the next topic in the next class. Thank you so much.